Hey guys, welcome back. Another day and another 6 brand new polls to take a look at that have been released over this past day. One of them looking at the national picture of the 2020 Democratic primary, then also 5 state-specific results looking at different areas such as California, Texas, Iowa, and Pennsylvania, and some really interesting data. And there continues to be a lot of very positive news for the Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, especially in terms of what we've been seeing from his surge over the past couple of weeks, closing that gap with Biden nationally and also having some very bullish signs in key early states that are going to be held in this primary process. It's a very exciting time. We're less than a week away from heading into the Iowa caucuses, and if you want to continue to get poll update videos as well as my predictions on what I think is going to happen in these races, going over the results, a lot of exciting content, consider joining the channel and clicking that subscribe button. Again, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to work my way through this Democratic primary process. So I'm going to start here with the national poll, and all of these different polling resources, I'll have links down in the video description. Now, this is the only national poll that came out over this past day, and it comes from The Economist and YouGov. And throughout this process, this has been a polling resource in general that's been less bullish on Bernie Sanders and more bullish on Elizabeth Warren. So these numbers are even more positive for Bernie, given the fact that in general, these Economist YouGov polls, he's been below where his national average has been. But in this one, compared to where we were a week ago, he picks up 6 percentage points nationally and in a statistical tie at the top in terms of being within the margin of error. But a very close competitive race. Sanders there at 24%. Gains 6 points from where he was a week ago. Biden loses 2 percentage points at 26, and right there neck and neck with Sanders at the top. And Warren continues to outperform in these Economist YouGov polls compared to what the average of her national polls are saying. But in this one, she loses 1 percentage point in third place there at 20%. And then all of the other candidates find themselves in single digits, with Buttigieg at 7%. He loses a point. Klobuchar hovering right at 4 percentage points, staying even. Bloomberg actually loses 2 percentage points in this national poll, down to 4%. Yang also staying steady at 4%. And then Gabbard picks up 1 point. She is at 3 percentage points. So it appears that the New York Times endorsement for Amy Klobuchar hasn't done much for her in the way of improving her numbers in a number of these national polls. We have seen improvements from Klobuchar, however, in some key early results such as Iowa and maybe to a little lesser of an extent New Hampshire, but still not enough to seriously get her into that upper tier contention. We'll see how things close out here over the next week as we actually head into the Iowa caucuses to see if she can get over the line or not. But out of these kind of next tier candidates behind these upper tier options like a Biden and Sanders, and to a little bit lesser of an extent Elizabeth Warren, it would seem that perhaps Buttigieg and Klobuchar are in a position where they could possibly surprise in Iowa. And if that is the case, maybe they can build themselves a positive narrative and have some more success going forward. But again, it's an outside chance for them to do so, and time will tell if that actually happens or not. So that's the national poll that I want to take a look at. And again, all of these polls that I'm going to be going over in today's video will be linked down in the video description. So now going over to a Change Research poll that was just released out of the state of California. And actually, this poll was just released within this past hour, so fresh, brand new data here, and extremely positive signs here for Bernie Sanders, where in this January poll, he is at 30% of support. You compare that to the rest of the field, where you have Warren at 16%, Biden at 15%, Pete Buttigieg at 8%, obviously Kamala Harris no longer in the race, and then you have Andrew Yang at 5 percentage points, Michael Bloomberg at 4, Tulsi Gabbard, Cory Booker no longer in it, Julian Castro no longer in it, Tom Steyer at 2%, Amy Klobuchar at 3%, and you can see these trend lines over time. So with these Change Research polls out of California throughout the past 4 polls that they've done, Bernie's gone from 23 to 24 to 26 in December, and now he's up to 30 percentage points, whereas Elizabeth Warren, really his top contender in terms of getting that progressive vote, she went from 25 to 28 to 23, now down to 16 percentage points. It appears that a lot of that progressive vote has been coalescing behind Bernie Sanders and maybe walking away a bit from Elizabeth Warren. And then Biden, more so steady throughout this course of time, where he was at 18, then at 19, then 19. In this one, he does take a step back down to 15, and then you can see how the rest of the field plays out. But again, another poll that is very bullish on Bernie Sanders in what is one of the most important states, given the fact that California moves up their primary date to Super Tuesday, and they have the most pledged delegates up for grabs by far. You need to get above that 15 percentage point threshold to be part of the candidates that are going to divvy up those that treasure trove of pledged delegates from the state of California. So then we move over and take a look at a new Monmouth poll out of the state of Iowa. Of course, a very important result, the first one that we're going to be getting here, less than a week away. And this is one where Joe Biden is able to eke his way past Bernie Sanders, very close and competitive at the top. He's at 23%, down a point from where he was in early January. Bernie Sanders gains 3 points from where he was in this Iowa Monmouth poll. He was at 18, and this one he's up to 21. And these Monmouth polls in particular, in the state of Iowa, haven't necessarily been all that high on Bernie Sanders, because we look way back, he was at just 8% back in August. That was kind of a head scratcher in terms of that particular poll, but then he jumped up to 13, then up to 18, now up to 21. Whereas Buttigieg, he peaked there at 22% in November, then took a step back to 17, and this one he takes a step back to 16. And a story with Elizabeth Warren where she continues to be receding, however, similar to where she was in early January, but she was at 20%, then 18. Now she's been hovering around 15. Amy Klobuchar takes a step forward, and we kind of seen her more so hovering around this 10 percentage point number in the state of Iowa. It's neighboring to Minnesota, where Klobuchar is the senator from. It's a state that she has to do well in, and she's still a step behind where these upper-tier contenders are, but she does pick up a couple of points to 10%, and then Steyer stays there at 4%. Andrew Yang stays right there at 3 percentage points, and then everyone else is at 1 percentage point or less. 3 more polls to finish out this video, 2 from Texas and then 1 from Pennsylvania. This is from Data for Progress out of the state of Texas, and it shows a relatively competitive race at the top where you have Joe Biden leading the way at 26 percentage points, followed by Bernie at 20 points, and then a little bit of a step down there to Elizabeth Warren in third place, followed by Buttigieg at 10. And then everyone else is in single digits, where you have Bloomberg there at 7, Klobuchar at 4, Yang at 3, Tom Steyer at 2. And moving over to this Texas Lyceum, I think is how you pronounce the outlet that this is coming from. And Bernie Sanders surging from the prior poll that came from this result, which was taken all the way back in September. Biden loses 4 percentage points from that prior result, still in first place at 28%, but again, within the margin of error, technically a statistical tie at the top, where Sanders doubles his support since September. He was at 13%, and this one he's at 26 percentage points, so he gains 13 points. Elizabeth Warren loses 2 percentage points in third place at 13, and then you have Bloomberg. This is his initial result. He's at 9%. Buttigieg gains 3 points. He's up to 6. Klobuchar gains 1 point to 4. Gabbard gains 1 point up to 2, and then Tom Steyer gains 2 points. He was at 0 in this one. He's at 2 percentage points. And actually interesting, taking from this particular poll, they did head-to-head matchups between the top 3 Democratic hopefuls and Donald Trump. And actually Bernie Sanders performed the best, where he was losing to Trump by 3 points. Biden was losing to Trump in Texas by 5 percentage points. And Elizabeth Warren was losing to Donald Trump by 8 percentage points. So Biden and Sanders doing the best, but then Sanders kind of separating himself from the rest of the pack in terms of being the close in this competitive matchup at the top. And then just one more state-specific poll that I want to take a look at here, and this one is from Pennsylvania. You have Pennsylvania Joe Biden expected to do well in the state, also because Pennsylvania has a closed primary, which is more likely to benefit Joe Biden than it does Bernie Sanders. But we can also see a bit of a tightening in this race compared to the historical results that we've gotten out of Pennsylvania from this particular resource, where back in August, Biden was at 28, then he moved up to 30 in October, but this one he loses 8 percentage points down to 22% of support, where Bernie, he was at 12, again at 12, and then this one gains a few points up to 15 in second place. Warren taking steps back, she was at 21, then 18, then 14, and still quite a large number of people who don't know yet who they're going to be voting for in the Pennsylvania primary. That number is at 19 percentage points. You have Bloomberg there at 7, Pete Buttigieg at 6. He loses a couple of points. Yang gains 4 points up to 5. Klobuchar gains 3 points up to 5% as well. None is there at 6%. Other is there at 2. So those are the 6 polls that I want to touch on here in today's video. And again, they'll be linked down in the video description if you want to check them out for yourself. Consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, and I hope to see you guys back here for my next video.